You're listening to The Jake Asman Show on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
5 days away from the NFL draft. A lot of people going to be sitting on their couch watching it all unfold and also placing a lot of wagers on how they think it's all gonna unfold. So let's talk about the draft from a gambling perspective. And to do that, we go out to our progressive guest line right now, and we bring on the host of the morning after on SportsGrid, one of the best in the business of handicapping all things sports, including the draft. She is Ariel Epstein, and she joins us now. Ariel, I always appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, Jake. You know, it's nice sometimes when you work the weekends. You can do shows that you've never done before, and that's this one today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're on at the same time, so I always wish I could get you on during the week, but I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us, and I appreciate you joining us after the Knicks have now won 9 games in a row.
It's unbelievable, Jake, what's going on. I know you're from New York, even though you work down there in Houston. Being in New York right now is so different. The Yankees are playing, the Mets are playing, and all anyone's talking about in April is the Knicks. It's crazy. It doesn't even matter that the Brooklyn Nets have 3 All-Stars on their team. The Knicks have been the story here in New York, and everyone is watching.
It's been incredible. 9 wins in a row, and I don't think they're ever going to lose again, Ariel. I think this is it. This is the winning streak of all winning streaks.
It's not only 9 wins in a row, it's 11 or 12. I think it's 12 covers in a row or 11. It's insane when you can win. And mind you, the Knicks have the best home record as a home favorite against the spread this season. They're 11-2. I think now 12-2 against the spread when they're favored at home. They're winning games they have to win. The biggest transition we've seen in this team, that top 5 defense has kept them in games. In the last month, they've been able to win them.
Well said. So as far as the NFL draft, 5 days out, what would be your approach to trying to bet the draft? Like, would you encourage people to get all their bets in as soon as possible? Wait until, right up until the draft gets rolling here? What would be your approach getting set 5 days out from this draft?
Bet this as soon as possible. There's going to be so much movement this week in the odds. We've already seen a ton of movement. The difference is when you're a couple of weeks out from the draft, there's not as many smoke screens being thrown at you. You're going to see so many smoke screens get thrown up this week with teams saying that they like, let's say, for example, the big story as that for the 3rd pick, but the big story to receivers is what's going on in Alabama. Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith. With all of the different teams saying that they're not concerned about Waddle's ankle injury, they like Waddle better than Smith, it leads me to think, well, these teams like Devontae Smith. They're just never going to tell you the right answer. You have to assume that they're lying because they want everyone else to think that you like a certain person, so they go and grab them while you get the man that you want.
With the way the quarterback rumors have been flying around, what's your feel for what the Niners do with the 3rd pick? How would you handle that from a betting perspective?
This has been the toughest handicap. This 3rd overall pick has been something I've gone back and forth about. The conclusion I've drawn is, why are the 49ers going to go for a quarterback in Alabama's quarterback, Mac Jones, who is just like every quarterback on their current roster? All of them, from Jimmy Garoppolo down to the backup. It's the same quarterback. Why would Shanahan, the head coach at San Francisco, why would Kyle Shanahan want to go for somebody who's exactly the same? I would say go with someone different. Shake it up. Somebody that's dynamic, versatile, can shake up your offense. You've got great weapons in San Francisco. When it comes to your tight end, George Kittle, you've got a bunch of up-and-coming receivers who are extremely young. I think that with Shanahan's experience as an offensive coordinator, he should look for ways to get more creative. That's the way that the NFL is going. Look at all these mobile quarterbacks and versatile quarterbacks that are young and up and coming in the industry. I think that Justin Fields is the quarterback that San Francisco should go for. The odds aren't indicating that. The odds are telling Mac Jones is going 3rd overall. He's minus 175 currently. Justin Fields plus 220. So it's good value in case you think Fields is going. Now, a little bit of a hole in the market. Well, actually, no, see, odds always changing. Things got regulated a bit. One thing that we caught on our show on the morning after while we were doing it, we said, hey, it's a little strange that you could pick the third overall pick to be Justin Fields, but he's plus 180, and the under 3.5 draft positions plus 220. You just should bet the under if you feel Fields is third overall. The sports book caught the hole. Now they're both plus 220.
Wow.
These are little holes in the market, though, that you can find that the sports book doesn't necessarily pick up on until a little bit later on. That's why it's good to try to find the holes now and place your bet.
How does it work with the sports book? Like, are there a bunch of people just like gathered in a room together, like going through all this, being like, oh, we got to make sure we eliminate this hole right here. Like, how do they become aware of what you just pointed out, that flaw in the book?
They watch the morning after on SportsGrid. No, I'm just kidding. No, if you ask any bookmaker, they tell you that they would rather not bet. They would rather not book this draft. They hate booking the draft for the same reason it's really tough to bet it. It's all about storylines. You're not in the room with these general managers. If the general managers and head coaches are trying to throw off their other teams in the league, obviously they're not going to tell the odds makers. They're not going to tell reporters. Those are the people they're throwing off and throwing the smoke screens at. So everyone else in the league could think they're going to go one way when they really go another. That's why I think the odds makers don't like booking this kind of market. They don't really like to book the market of where the quarterback is going to go. Let's say, for example, like Russell Wilson, when there were the trade rumors going, they had the market up for where Russell Wilson will play next year. I don't think odds makers like booking those because there's just so many ways that they could get screwed over, essentially. And that's why in this NFL draft, it gets really difficult to book a lot of these, especially when you look to what would go on in the second or third round. How on earth do you know if there's going to be a trade, if someone's going to go earlier because a team traded up for a quarterback? There are just so many what ifs, but the odds makers do it because they're going to make money off betting the draft. It's the NFL's king, and people like to bet it.
Yes, they do. Ariel Epstein with us here. She's the host of the Morning After on SportsGrid. You can find her on Twitter at Ariel Epstein. The record for the longest draft that's taken that has occurred before a defensive player was selected is 7 picks. That was back in 1999. That was the last time 3 consecutive quarterbacks went in the first 3 picks. I'm looking at the board, Ariel, and the fact that we have all these quarterbacks and stud wide receivers and stud offensive linemen. I mean, I think that record gets shattered here. How would you bet the first defensive player taken, and at what slot do you see a non-offensive player actually going here in the first round?
Defensive player is going to be Micah Parsons, the Penn State linebacker. He'll end up going first. His draft position's 12.5 with the over at minus 138, meaning that he's going to go the 13th pick or higher. The reason why I think it might be accurate is because every team that you look at in these first 11, 12 picks all need offensive players. Whether it comes down to, we know the first 3 are going to be quarterbacks. We know that Jacksonville's going to take Trevor Lawrence. We know that the Jets are going to go and take their guy at second. Why am I blanking right now? For BYU. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Help me out.
Zach
I don't
Wilson.
know why I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, so I always forget his name. Anyway, so the second pick in the draft is going to be a quarterback. The third pick in the draft is going to be a quarterback going to San Francisco. And then you have the fourth pick, which is going to be the Atlanta Falcons. And that's the one where I think maybe a wide receiver could go, but like Jamar Chase or tight end and Kyle Pitts. Yet some people think that quarterback's going to go for because they want someone to push Matt Ryan. Then you have the 5th pick, which I think the Bengals are going to take an offensive tackle. And then the list goes on and on. I mean, I could go down the list. I just think that right now, when you're looking at the teams that are up there at the top 10, 11 picks, there's a reason that Micah Parsons is the first draft position at 12.5 for a defensive player. I just think that is a really offensive heavy draft, especially when it comes to the depth at wide receiver. Now, one of the bets that I know a lot of people like this year is the over 4.5 wide receivers drafted in the first round. The problem is you have to lay a lot of juice to bet the over. I'm giving you a minus 290 to the over, which is absolutely absurd. In fact, it's gone up. It was minus 180 at one point, and now it's been bet to minus 290. 4.5 is an absurd number because you're going to have at least 4 wide receivers going in the first 12 to 13 picks of the draft. So that's why it's a lot of the times the books, since they don't like to book these games, the draft, a lot of the times they'll give you really bad numbers like that, minus 290 over 4.5. Well, then you ask yourself, FanDuel, why don't you just give us a 5.5 and do it that way? But they don't want to do that because they're just going to be too exposed.
The running back position is fascinating for me, Ariel. You look at the total, I think it's at just 0.5 for the over-under being said for running backs selected in round one. We have not had a draft since 2014 where there hasn't been a running back, at least one taken in the first round. Do you see more than one going? I mean, how would you bet that over-under? I see there's a lot of heavy juice on the over at like minus 225 last I checked.
Yeah, I think a running back's going to go first in the first round this year. There is a need for it at the end of the draft. I'm trying to think of who I could see taking someone, but you know what? These running backs this year are really good. Najee Harris out of Alabama, Travis Etienne out of Clemson. Etienne is the second best odds. He's plus 155 to go as the first running back drafted. Najee Harris is the first, minus 190. I think that you're going to see at least one of them go, and maybe even two. Currently, I know it's booked at a half, but you can also look at the player over-unders. And at draft position for a running back, Najee Harris is at 28.5, and ETN is 32.5, which is telling you you could even have two running backs going in the first round. The only difference is that the juice on ETN is over minus 128. So again, it's just one of those markets that it's really hard to figure out what's going to happen towards the end of the first round. I can't tell you how many times in the last few years we have seen a team who just no one who they like falls to them, and they decide to trade out of a certain pick because someone in the second round, for example, the Houston Texans, who I don't think have a first round pick this year, the Houston Texans, right? They could piece together a bunch of different trade pieces and try to trade up in case a quarterback they like falls to the back of the first round, just as the Baltimore Ravens did for Lamar Jackson a few years ago.
Ariel Epstein with us here. All right, finally, Ariel, you do a segment on your show every day on SportsGrid called Till Bet Do Us Part, where you give out your favorite plays of the day. How about your favorite play for the NFL draft? Could be something we've already talked about, something that you're eyeing. Give us a play that everyone could get involved with here 5 days out.
The play that I've already placed a bet on is for the Alabama wide receiver, Devontae Smith, to go under 11.5. It's at plus 118 currently. A lot of people are going to think that Jalen Waddle is going to be the one to go under 11.5. It's going to be one of them. There's going to be the New York Giants who are going to want a wide receiver. And then if anything, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles will go and take a wide receiver too. The difference is the Eagles are at the 12th pick in the draft and the Giants are the 11th. Currently, Jalen Waddle is at plus 40 to go 11th overall to the Giants. Devontae Smith is plus 380. Here's one of those holes in the market. You could bet Devontae Smith to go under 11.5, or you could say, well, that team that probably would take him would be the Giants. You could get better value even. Devontae Smith at plus 380 if you feel the Giants are going to take him. I don't see Smith going before 11. I think he goes to 11 or maybe 12 if the Eagles go for wide receiver and going for a cornerback. So Devontae Smith could be a good bet either at plus 380 to go to the Giants or plus 430 to go to the Eagles.
Ariel, you're the best. Thanks so much for coming on. Let's go Knicks, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Jake. Have a good day.
Ariel Epstein with us there. She's the host of the Morning After. You can watch and listen to that on SportsGrid during the week. She's on Twitter at Ariel Epstein, and she joined us on our Progressive guest line. Progressive, making it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. Get your quote at progressive.com today. We'll take a quick break and continue wrapping up hour 1 of 3. Jake Asman with you till 6 Eastern right here on SportsMap.